Hey party people, Panda Brady here, and this is a little bit of a weird video for me. I'm recording on the night of Thanksgiving to put this out tomorrow, Black Friday. So in my RWBY R&D for episode 3 of volume 6, I mentioned that I would say why I am kind of annoyed that they decided with Ozma for Oz's original name. The reasoning for this is because I had already written a OC character with the last name of Ozma, so that kind of messes things up. But I feel like the fact that they didn't take advantage of naming Ozpin Ozma really shows, because in L. Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz series, World of Oz, Ozma is the true name of the princess who was put under a spell when she was young and raised as a boy named Tip. Ozma was who she really was, and at the end of the first book that she's in, with the help of Dorothy, she gets turned back into her actual self and starts ruling over Oz. I enjoy the Wizard of Oz series, books, all the World of Oz stuff, just because it's so out there. Anyways, but now that that's out of the way, I also wanted to talk about my fan fiction. I'm cringing just admitting that I have this, but I wrote a fan fiction. It's still being worked on, because since season 1, or volume 1 rather, I've been working on it, and then I will stop about 6 chapters in, which is right at the end of the initiation, and I will wait for the next volume, and then things get retconned or confirmed or deconfirmed, and I have to rewrite it again. So, this is now the 6th time I've had to go back through and double check everything, make sure nothing's out of the way or incorrect, stuff like that. And I know it's a fan fiction, you can do whatever you want with it, but that's not how I like to write. I want to make a AU RWBY that is close enough to regular canon that it could be considered canon. And I've had to do this multiple different ways, and I have sent emails to Miles and Carrie. I have screenshots saved to my computer of this. But anyways, the story is about Team Bone. And yes, I realize I could have picked a better name for them, but at the time, Bone White seemed like a good idea. So, I have several different teams in my story: Bone, Gale, Snow, Rose. Well, it's actually Rawls, but pronounced Rose. Anyways, so yeah, Bone consists of Bright Kibo, who is a panda faunus, and I'll be showing images here. He's supposed to be a panda faunus. The story behind this is that the RWBY Dust Company, which is the second biggest, not second biggest dust company, but they're a big name dust company. Think the Kmart to Walmart. They are only keeping afloat because of military contracts and stuff like that. But there's another secret hidden side behind it all, and it's slowly revealed throughout the story. I kind of want to keep it hidden, kind of don't. But, I don't have the patience to become a great artist. These are all sprite edits. Anyways, Bright Kibo was a orphaned panda faunus found in the aftermath of a White Fang rally before they decided that White Fang were always equipped with weapons and had the same stuff all the time, because this was written back when they were like, they used to be a very peaceful group until radicals took over in recent years. But anyways, so yeah, he was found by the Hui Dust Company, who, the Hui family, who are the head family of the Dust Company, and taken in and raised as one of their own, because for the father wanted to do it because of PR reasons, thinking that it would look better on the company if they had some reason to get the faunus on their side. So anyways, he was raised along with his 4 adoptive sisters and 1 adopted half-sister, named Nell. During one trip, he's camping out with all of them, and they see... Well, he sneaks off with one of his sisters that he really adores because she's into the whole being a huntress thing and wanted to show him everything that she's learned in the academy so far. So they sneak off in the middle of the night and get attacked by a big, weird-looking Grimm. And so he runs off at her behest and warns everybody. And then when they get back, the father blames him and is all like, because she's dead, by the way. She dies. And so the father blames him and is very cold and very, let's say he's not nice to him. Let's put it that way. But his wife decides that it wasn't his fault. He did what he needed to. He ran back. If it weren't for him, they wouldn't have even found her. They both would have been dead, and maybe even the camp attacked. But anyways, as the years go on, the father treats him more like a servant, and the mother wants him to, wants him to follow his dreams, and his dreams are to take up the mantle of his sister's dreams and end up becoming a hunter, or huntsman, rather. So he gets trained by them a little bit, homeschooled. He goes to a regular academy and takes the entrance exam, and he passes with flying colors. He's almost too good, because the Huis are actually really talented huntsmen and taught him. And so, yeah, the headmaster of his academy speaks with Oz and manages to get him in a year ahead. Not 2 years ahead, like RWBY, but a year ahead. And, of course, that was back when RWBY originally was made, so yeah. Next, I have Orchid Ushitora, who is a purple-haired girl, lives out in the country with her parents, technically, yeah, they're her parents, never mind, just thinking about it. But yeah, they found her and adopted her. Yes, I know adoption is a big thing in this story, but, yeah, so she worked on a farm, taking care of Grimm, doing farm work, keeping everything going. This was all before Oscar came into the picture. Then Oscar showed up, and I was like, oh, this is basically what I had planned on Orchid doing. But basically, the Hui Dust company finds out that there's a large vein of dust under their land and ends up buying the farm from them. They move into the city, and being the adventurous person that she is, Orchid asks if she can become a huntsman because she knows how hard it is working on a farm out in the wilderness and wants to be able to travel around and help people defend their farms from other Grimms. So they end up letting her take the exam and she gets in. Next we have Nell Hui. Yes, Nell Hui. She is that half-sister that I was mentioning. She's from a previous marriage that the mother died in, and she managed to stay in the main family because, Long Hui, who's the father, decided to keep her in because he wanted her to be his legitimate heir. He wants a male son, but he's never gotten one, and he's kind of upset about that. But he wants her to be a legitimate heir, and she does everything she can to prove that she is everything he wants her to be and more. And that includes trying to become a huntress so that she can not only be effective on the battlefield, but also in the conference, or other way around. Not only be effective in the conference room, but also on the battlefield. So yeah, she wants to do that, and basically her whole thing is she's trying to show off and be the best there is and live up to her expectations. And there are reasons why her father ends up letting her go to Beacon. Yes. Wow, I had a brain fart for a second there. There are reasons why he lets her go to Beacon, but I will reveal that in the fanfic. And then we have Eisenhans, whose entire backstory kind of ruins all mystery to my story. So if you want to find out, or don't want to find out, skip to this time. I'll post it. Okay, so Eisenhans is Eisenhans Oberon, by the way, his full name, originally he was going to be an android similar to Penny, except that his aura constantly drains. And I had thought of the idea before they introduced Penny into the show. Then they introduced Penny, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Originally, I had him having a drill gun, which he would have like an arm-based drill gun. But yeah, I totally skipped on the weapons. I'll go into that later. But I ended up giving him a massive sword that had multiple modes of firing. This is because he is supposed to be the test bed for a mass production android that scans the movements of huntsmen and uses them to become an army of huntsman-level androids. They're supposed to be very smart and able to learn so that they can take down the Grimm more effectively, and the people would not have to worry about having to rely on the huntsman. That's the main draw point of that. Okay, so that's the spoilers done. So, yeah. Bright has dual, katana gun blades. Initially, I was going to have them as just as they are, but with long blades coming out, and then they could attach each other to become a dual or a double-sided sword. However, I decided to not go with that, and instead the sword can now fold up so it's more compact and makes aiming actually feasible with it. But it can still extend into the katanas, and he has his sister sword on his back, which is not very well drawn here. But yeah, his sister's sword is supposed to be a dust-powered katana, but bigger than the regular katana, kind of like an odachi or a nodachi. It would be loaded with specific dust, being fire rounds, and it would light up in a blue flame, which was what made it so special. But yeah, so then we have Orchid, who initially I had with a Kanabo here. Really, it's a Tetsubo, but initially I'd called it a Kanabo with a Gatling gun on the end. Then I realized that all of my characters did not have very heavy-hitting gun power. So I turned it into each of the spikes on there can be released through a lever mechanism near the handle as mines, or just launched off as grenades. She can also unwrap the wrapping around the handle and swing it like crazy when she wants to. That's because she has a split personality problem, and one side keeps her well, technically she has 3 personalities, but one personality she has is very actually well read, and I came up with the idea for the personality because I know several southern people that are actually very well read and very intelligent, but you wouldn't guess that if you heard their accent, because they all talk like this, and you'd never understand that they were actually like a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist. I'm over exaggerating, but yeah, anyways. If I had to get a voice for her, I would want... Well, I mean, she's already Winter, but I would want her because her scout voice is almost perfect for her. The Nomad! The Nomad of Nowhere. But anyways, and the other one is like this crazy, very heavy southern drawl character. But she becomes enraged in battle and stuff like that. Anyways, Nell here has a lance that initially would split into 4 separate little, basically bow parts, and fire arrows from them. And basically it was a giant crossbow lance. Then I eventually just turned it into a crossbow lance where it just splits open and is able to fire concentrated beams of dust through the center of it. And then finally we have Eisen, who has a giant sword. Initially it was going to be a drill arm machine gun, but I quickly got rid of that because it also had bit capabilities where it was wire guided and he didn't have to worry about it. But then Penny used wire guided swords, and I was like, oh, I don't want to copy. Oh crap, I just spoiled it. Oh well. Did I? No, I didn't. Never mind. But by elaborating on it, I kind of did. So, anyways, but now he has a giant sword that has a sniper mode, a grenade launcher mode, and a machine gun mode. So he's pretty much a jack of all trades. That has to do with part of his semblance, which is to appear as anyone he wants, even going as far as obtaining their mannerisms and voice. The reason for that will be explained later. But yeah, so the story here was supposed to be that a A woman who has ties to the RWBY Dust Company wanted revenge because of certain things that happened. I can't go into super detail. So she gathers up a bunch of people, and her plan is to fire a giant dust cannon into the mountain where the secret lab is held, which also happens to be in line of fire with Beacon Academy. She also wants to get rid of Beacon Academy for various reasons, and the power of this dust cannon requires so much dust that she hires these people known as the Woodsmen by helping them survive a very harsh battle with the Grimm, and they're very honor-bound, and they owe her a life debt, so they decide to help her. So this cannon, because it requires so much dust, she has the Woodsman go out and get the dust, and because of that, they end up crossing paths with Roman and Cinder's group, because that dust plotline didn't really go anywhere, did it? Anyways, so the thing is that their dust gathering interferes with Roman's dust gathering and causes their plans to go awry. So before major plots can happen in the regular story, this woman's plans end up going into action, and there's basically a lot of the characters having to fight. I'm trying to do this without spoiling, so if it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, I do. I just don't want to spoil the story. Anyways, each of her people end up pairing off with others and taking on teams, sometimes splitting them up separately so that they can't use teamwork. I had planned on focusing on prejudice and teamwork and team building, and how no matter how you want to slice things, there will always be somebody who thinks that you're better. I know it's basically the whole Weiss and RWBY plot line, but I wanted to do it a little bit better. A little more realistic, rather, not better. But yeah, so one moment. Where was I? Oh, yes. So things happen where she ends up dying, and certain things happen where she releases some spores, which all this will make sense when I get to that part in the story. And these spores end up infecting Grimm that are already in existence. They end up with Grimm that begin to exhibit aura and personality and a sense of self. And this creates what I have deemed the Tallbanes. The Tallbanes are basically faunus, but instead of with regular animal parts, they are Grimm parts. And that causes a lot of prejudice, a lot of back and forth, like, are the faunus closer to creatures of Grimm, or are they human? And it causes a big thing, a big fuss. And then there is a zealot religious group that is actually normally good for everybody, but at this point, because Ozpin is kind of on the side of the Tallbanes, because the Tallbanes want to live like normal people. And they end up getting caught up in Team Bone's stuff, or Team Bone, rather, gets caught up in their stuff. And there's a zealot group that wants to eradicate them because they believe that this is a very bad omen, that the Grimm are beginning to do this, and they take matters into their own hand, and crimes against Faunus end up skyrocketing because this zealot group believes that Faunus are just an offshoot of the Tallbanes. Or vice versa, rather. The Tallbanes are an offshoot of the Faunus, meaning that the Faunus are spawns of creature of Grimm, or so they think, and so they want to eradicate the Faunus and the Tallbanes so that the Grimm can no longer evolve like they have. Eventually, there will be, in that arc, some grounds between them all found, and people held accountable for their actions, and, just actual consequences. I know they've had consequences in the show recently, but yeah. And then season 3 would be what I deemed the noir, or not noir, nor, the Nor arc, because the Norn is a organization that wants to better humankind because they believe that huntsmen and even the Tallbane are a threat to regular people, those that don't get to use aura, because this was written before the whole, during the whole aura has to be unlocked thing. Now they're like, no, it doesn't, but you don't get to use it all the time, but you kind of do. But yeah, so those that don't have aura, don't have semblances, the Norn wanted to enhance human society through cybernetics and a mix of their own brand of magic, which I will get to that when that part of the story comes. And actually, I kind of got a little bit of a boost from this because of the recent episode, but we'll wait till the end of Volume 6 to let that verdict go out or not. But basically their whole thing is they want to better humankind because they believe that humans are in danger of being replaced by the huntsmen and the Grimm. Because the huntsmen have all these superpowers, as Nora had put it. And so they are working on making humans a match, or even better, than the huntsmen and the Grimm. However, they're going about it in the wrong way and are actually creating an army to overthrow everybody. Then, at the end of all this, it turns out that all of this, and this was a recent introduction. Initially, it was all going to be stemming from the original bad, antagonist from season 1. But now I've done a different thing, and now I have to rewrite it again because of the most recent episode. This was all because of the splinters of Salem, as I put them. So the way this worked is, in my version, because this was back when they said that Oz was cursed because he could not stop Salem previously. So what I had made was, in this version, Salem and Oz had a fight long ago. Grimm and Huntsman, clashing, and he and she had a big fight near the end, and he managed to defeat her. But she was immortal, which that was a lucky guess on my part. But because he had destroyed her body, she still remained, and over the decades she went insane and developed splinters of herself, which were her will manifest. And they began doing what the Ozpin does and began reincarnating within random people around the world. There were initially going to be 6, and I had pretty much stopped there because I had 3 more splinters to go. 4, because only 2 were ever talked about. But yeah, so that was the idea. If there are any people out there that are interested in this, I will be working on the fanfic. And if I could get animators to do this, that would be awesome, amazing, totally uber fantastic. Like I said, I've emailed Miles and Carrie and never received anything back about this. But I would really love it to be like RWBY side stories or something like that. Just this small tangent of a series that's like a what if series. Because it's such a cool world that Monty left us. And I wanted to expand upon it. And I mean, that was kind of his whole mantra, was to inspire just one person to go out and make their own thing, which I know this isn't technically my own thing, but for that, I could talk about my series Ward that I had been working on, and then right as I began writing the story, the first trailer for RWBY dropped, and I was like, no, it's the same format, 4 girls stopping evil, dang it. But I digress. If you have watched this far, or at least listened in podcast mode, whatever, I would like to go ahead and thank you. Say a big thanks. And yeah, I mean, if you guys are still here, I'm very grateful for that. Like and share if you enjoyed. Subscribe to become part of the Panda Party, because there ain't no party like a Panda Party, because a Panda Party don't stop. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.